Hello, everybody, and welcome to Problem Solve Her, a really fun, cool, innovative podcast for women and men. Hence, Jeff is back of all ages.
He's
We
back with the
appreciate
dog.
for the what?
Dogs.
Yeah, and the dogs, as we say in New York, the dogs. 25% of our listeners are men because they want to know what women are thinking. And they also like to see when other men are on. So, first of all, Happy New Year. Woo, woo. By the way, it's not Happy New Year's. People say that. It's not plural. It's only one year. Happy New Year. And we were just talking about this before we started, New Year's resolutions and what's different. All I can say is this. When there's a new year, we all get older. That's the only thing I know to be a fact, right? Is that the age you get a little bit older. When you're younger, you're like, yeah, new year, woo. Once you hit 40, you go up, you're like, meh. So first of all, Happy New Year again to everyone listening and watching, and to Dagmar and Jeff. Jeff is back. We love having Jeff on. Master dog trainer extraordinaire. Jeff's in the house.
Hi.
Woo, woo. My co-host Daggy is in the house. Whoop, whoop.
Such high energy today.
Chloe's in the house. Well, we need high energy. We don't want to start out low in the new year because then we're going to zonk. So
That's not true.
guys, Jeff and I were on earlier. We had a session and a coaching session, and we were talking about a few different topics, and something really important came up. And Jeff and I were discussing it. Something I'm not going to get into on here because that's our personal calls. But I want to say this politically correct. Dogs that are not properly leash trained and have recall training really can result in a lot of different things. We are not going to discuss that specifically on today's episode. We're going to talk more about anxiety for dogs because dogs are so close to humans. Dogs have anxiety just like we do. And I would like to think, though, a properly trained dog on a leash would have less anxiety. That's the only correlation. I'm trying to put those two together. But I think it's really important that people understand, and Jeff is a master at this, that leash training is so important in learning to have a good relationship with your dog and for them to have less anxiety. And as Jeff was saying on our call, dogs don't want to be on leashes. They want to be off a leash. But if you have a dog on a loose leash that's properly trained, he feels cool and he's comfortable and he has no anxiety. So first and foremost, Jeff, I think it's really important for you to just describe the different types of anxieties that you encounter with dogs when you're training them or when you first meet a family and you can tell right away this dog has a lot of anxiety. So if you can kind of just start with that.
Sure. And thank you. I love the question. Anxiety really manifests itself in a lot of different ways with dogs, and Dagmar was reading from something before, from moderate to severe anxiety. Right? Sometimes it's just a dog who barks a lot, right? And that can appear to be the happiest dog in the world. Hey, he's just looking out the window, barking all day long. Every time he sees a dog, a bird, a squirrel, a neighbor. But I see that as anxiety. It's not severe anxiety like some of the cases that we have to deal with. But even that is, I'm sure if you could just say quiet and the dog would stop barking, you're going to have a much less anxious dog, a much more confident dog, which is the point of the whole exercise. So sometimes I see dogs that are so anxious that people can't leave them alone for 5 minutes, right? The dog will have a literal panic attack, scream, destroy things. It's very common. And people think there's no way out of that. They just think I got what I got and you know what, I'm just going to have to manage it or deal with it. But I've seen so many dogs go from that level of anxiety to pure confidence simply through the ability to communicate. And when you talk about leash training, when you put a dog on a leash, you literally have 100% control. You have a leash and you can, if you know how to use it, you can teach a dog, when I ask you to do this, I have the ability to make you do this. When you talk about a recall, which is a much more of a safety issue than an anxiety issue, that's very difficult because now you have a dog who's off leash 100 yards away chasing a squirrel at 30 miles an hour, right? So the leash training is something that literally anybody could do at any point, and it's not nearly as difficult as teaching a dog to come 100% of the time, which is stuff I do with clients, but there's a lot more work that goes into it. But with one session, you can get a giant improvement on leash walking. And so if a dog's anxious, you look, anxiety, we were talking about how it manifests. If you're walking down the street and your dog sees its best friend across the street and literally loses his mind, barking, pulling, jumping, that's anxiety, right? It might be because I want to get to them so bad. And when I do, I'll have the best time. But those moments until he gets there is frustration and anxiety. So if you have a dog who walks on a beautifully loose leash, regardless of any level of distraction that you encounter, because they've learned that, the closer they walk to you on a loose leash, the more fun they have, the more places they're able to get to, then you get a dog who is much more confident than the dog who's straining and barking and doing all those other things. So I believe leash walking is the number one way to reduce anxiety in a dog's life.
That's amazing. I don't even think that people would associate that, and I love that you're explaining it. Can dogs also, let's say a dog, it has minor anxiety, right? You kind of see it as just a little bit here and there, like you said, maybe from the barking or certain situations. How big of a role does the environment in which they live create or manifest more anxiety?
It's everything, right? Because I don't know about you, but if my dog were acting anxiously, I would become anxious myself. And then I would do anxious behaviors, which would therefore make my dog more anxious. It's a vicious cycle that never ends, right? So the environment they're in, if people are upset, they're fighting, they're having tough days at work, and the dog can't tell the difference between I'm mad at myself, I'm mad at the day I'm having, or maybe I'm mad at you, right? That energy is just the energy. So part of what I believe dog training is the human training themselves to always communicate in the same fashion, regardless of whatever you're running into when you're out and about. Right. So if my dog was running towards the street with a car coming, I'm going to tell him to come in the same tone of voice as if I was playing ball in the yard. I've trained myself over many years to never, I don't lose it like that, which let's face it, any normal person would. It's
So
just human
hard in a
nature.
moment. Yeah.
In a really scary moment, it is very difficult. So, yes, you're literally training a dog, but at the same time, it's even more important that you train the human in their environment to always keep those stressors very low. Communication, clear language, calm tones of voice, facial expression, body language all play a very, big role in how a dog feels when he's in his environment. Obedience to me is if I can get a dog to look at their name, come when I call them, go to their place, walk next to me, paying attention, then I can get their mind off of whatever's causing them anxiety and I can put it on me and reward them for that. Then I can decrease anxiety, increase confidence. That's why I love obedience so much. It's a great problem solver.
Right. It is a problem solve her. I like that, Jeff.
Throw
Very
that in.
crafty.
Thank you.
What about, and I noticed this with Oliver, but in other dogs too, they get anxious around children because they don't really especially if you don't have any children at home. And the kids come up like this morning, they go, "Oh, can I pet your dog?" And he kind of went, because they're rushing up to him, like kind of like he sees it as a bum rush, this mini midget human. And then he's like, "Whoa, what,
Absolutely.
what suggestions would you give for that?"
Well, first of all, it's that same vicious cycle. If your dog tends to jump on people or rush at them, then when you're around kids, it's more concerning because they're smaller, right? Or if you're around someone who's fragile, you're going to be like, what if my dog jumps on this person? So you can literally feel anxious just about that. And then the dog feels it right through the leash. Like you see the kid coming and you just pull back a little bit, and the dog's like, Mom's anxious about kids. So you better believe I'm anxious about kids. So it's calm energy, loose leash. I mean, you'd hear me talk so often if you followed me for a day about loose leash, my favorite two words. So when I see even a dog who's shown aggression and fear and, bolting behaviors, when I see their triggers approaching, I start praising them in a calm tone. And I do not touch the leash in the middle to create pressure on it. Two things that very few people would think to do, right? That you wouldn't be praising a dog, you'd be anticipating the bad behavior that. And then when you pull back on the leash, that's a language that says to the dog, this is an anxious moment. This is something to be worried about. Very calm tone of voice in commands that your dog knows well, like heel in that circumstance would be a good one when they're walking next to you, and lots of praise. And by the way, jumping, right? Because if you're nervous that your dog might jump on someone, the only way to make sure your dog feels comfortable around kids is to make sure you feel comfortable in those scenarios is you have to ask some friends' kids to come help you out, right? You do set up exercises, you teach your dog exactly how you want them to behave in that scenario, and you do it repetitively with consistency over time. And the dog will be like, why weren't you this clear with me before? Now I totally get it, exactly how I'm supposed to behave. So that really reduces any anxiety around kids. I've had to teach dogs to be good with autistic children on many occasions who you can't even verbally communicate to them how you want them to behave, the kids I'm talking about. And that really, and look, the dog has to trust you to say, look, I know something might be strange. That kid moves faster than your adult family, talks in a higher pitched tone, maybe stares in your eyes a lot or reaches their hands towards your face. But what we're teaching our dogs in my program is to be completely non reactive to that stimulus. I trust mom, I trust dad. I don't have to worry about what that kid's doing. So a good sit stay exercise, a place, proactive exercises, teaching them not to pull and jump when they get into those scenarios, and so many dogs love kids so much. It's just really, I can't control myself through my excitement. But that can be bad. That can be jumping, hurting a child, running into them, knocking them down. So, everything should be done in a proactive approach. Like, I'm going to take some, what I do a lot is I go take my clients' dogs to a children's playground, work outside the fence, and do simple sit stays so they learn. Those kids are running, they're screaming, they're sliding, they're wrestling, and the dog's performing a simple sit stay. And he goes, got it, nothing to be concerned about.
I just got anxious thinking about all those kids doing all those things you just said, screaming, sliding, yelling, throwing sand, pushing each other. I mean,
Yes.
it is because that could be an environment where anyone would be anxious.
I do talks at schools and I do career days with my dog. And, these kids are very wonderful kids and they love the dog, but there's not a lot of dogs that can handle the energy they bring to my dog, right? They're screaming, they're grabbing his head, they're right in his face. And, I don't mean to sound like a braggart, but I am 100% confident that he's going to be non reactive to that, even though I know for a fact he's not loving. Like, that's not his favorite thing when the kids are doing that, but he's completely non reactive to that. And that's what all
But
the training was for.
right. But as well trained as a dog could be under your supervision, like you said, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being in that environment. How does, aside from the training, is it a mindset where they are just suppressing these emotions of feeling like, I don't like this, it's fight or flight, but I
No.
know that I have to act this way. How are they able to manage that?
Yeah, my dog, it's much more kind of neutral than it is he doesn't like it. It's like if he had his choice, he would be with me or doing a command or one of his games or chasing a ball. So I know it's not his favorite thing, but I don't think he's
Chasing a
in
hot
fight or
female
flight.
dog down the street,
Yep. I would never put a dog who could possibly be in fight or flight in that situation because if you ask me how many dogs I know who could handle it like him and I would handle it with that level of confidence, I would tell you exactly right. Not even my greatest clients' dogs, because I haven't done that with them, would I feel comfortable. I'd have to
right?
work my way up to it. But I always tell people, like, I went to a client's house the other day and they're like, my kid, he just wants to lay down on the dog and hug her and she keeps growling at him. And I'm like, you're gonna have to teach that kid not to do that. A lot of dogs want nothing to do with that, right? It's not a very normal behavior for dogs to have to deal with if humans weren't around, right? So grabbing a dog and that's really young and hugging them could cause the dog to hate children, right? So I said, you're going to have to teach your child with some discipline not to do that. Everything else will teach the dog to handle, right? The play, the running, the yelling, that dog needs to learn to handle that. But you don't have to go laying down on top of a dog. They don't need that. So some of it's like the kids have to get some
They have
semblance
to
of
adapt as
discipline.
well, right?
Yeah, because that dog was just, if it kept happening, that dog could really have a problem with kids for the rest of its life.
Interesting.
We would like to take a moment in this episode to thank our sponsors. Palm Beach Dog Academy is located right here in the heart of sunny South Florida. Founded by Jeff Nelson, who did his training at the Harvard of Dog Training Academies at the Tom Rose School in Missouri. I can say firsthand that Jeff not only has the credentials and the experience, he knows how to train dogs properly. He trained my beloved Oscar, our furry favorite guy who lived till 19 years of age. For more information about Jeff's packages and his academy, please visit palmbeachdogacademy.com.
I have a question about, and I don't know how you could train a dog to do this unless you're there. Well, you'll tell me. So I'm thinking of bringing Oliver somewhere on the plane this summer at some point. I'm curious how dogs can manage anxiety in an airport where there's so much going on. And then once they're on the plane, to keep them in that calm setting, they have to just really sit in that area. I know a lot of people, they give their dog the CBD and the drug. I wouldn't do any of that. I would go au
Sure.
natural, but I'm just curious how you would approach that.
Well, it's funny. I think you're going to be shocked by this answer. Loose leash walking, paying attention, sit when I ask you, don't get up till I tell you to. That's it. If you can do those things, you can walk through the busiest airport that's ever existed and your dog will be just fine. But if there's a lot of, oh, there's a smell, oh, that kid's yelling, that
Right.
stuff, you don't have a chance to get rid of any anxiety the dog might feel. And if they start barking and you can't stay quiet and have them respond to that, you're going to have a dog who's anxious in an airport and on a flight. But I've taken many dogs on flights before, and I would only do that if they had good basic obedience. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't even have to be a service dog. If you can buy the flight and you're allowed to do it, just has to have basic obedience.
Right. I'm more asking about, Oliver's not a barker, thank God. I'm more asking about once you're on the flight. I think of it as like having to keep a child busy, like give them lots of toys and,
Sure, but if you can
because they're
get them
just sitting in that
interested.
little area there.
Yeah, I mean, truly, what you should do on a flight is little interacting as possible. Right? You want the dog to just go to sleep and forget anything's happening until you land. But I will tell you what would happen to a lot of people, and I've witnessed this myself on flights, is their dog's being really good and they are ignoring him. And then all of a sudden he starts to bark and cry and act scared and they give him a lot of attention. And I like to flip that upside down, right? So if the dog's being calm and quiet, you're being so good, I'm so proud of you, here's a little treat. And then when they start barking and crying, I know this is the airport wouldn't be a great place to work on it because you're affecting others, but I don't give them attention when they're doing that. And that's why dogs around me are like, I don't bark as much. I don't cry as much because Jeff just turns his back on me. But when I'm quiet and calm, he gives me tons of affection, right?
So you do the
Which,
opposite. Interesting.
yeah, it's kind of always that way in dogs.
What
Right?
about if Dagmar wants to bring Kitty on a plane?
Can't help at all. Would love to hear the results. Please send me the videos and the pictures.
I
Dag,
Can't
will.
have
help at
you
all.
ever
If I ever have to
brought one of the kitties on a plane?
no, if I ever have boat.
Take a boat, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There are boats. You can rent boats and then you can bring
Yes.
your kitties. And they have
That's
a
a great
play
idea.
area, and the night they have to stay inside their little cubby hole. In the daytime, they
So
can
you've
come.
done this before.
No, but I researched it.
Yeah.
And also driving. I was thinking of renting a car and driving Oliver to New York. He loves a road trip. The furthest I've taken him was to visit Dagmar. That was a little over 4 hours. Was that 4
Wow.
hours, Dag? Is it about,
I'd say
Coco?
3, but like a
3?
lot of hours.
But like stopping and, yeah, probably almost 4.
Yeah,
3 and
he
a
was
half,
great,
maybe.
right?
Yeah, no, he was great. He's loves just a little window down, sun on his face. Jeff, why do dogs love wind on their face so much? Even as soon as I'm walking down the street and that wind kicks up, he stops like a statue. He's like,
Well, I believe the breeze feels good, but I would tell you that their olfactory senses, the amount of smells that come at them rushing at that speed would be like their dream come true. So that's why a lot of dogs do it. You just
that
get
makes sense. It's
yeah,
like
they love
walking
that.
into your favorite restaurant and you smell like from the kitchen and you're like salivating. You're like, I have to eat.
And someone's taking a high power fan and blowing it right into your face. Yes, that's exactly right. So
That's
they
so
love that.
funny. That makes sense. I love that. Well, I haven't decided on the plane, and the car sounds like it would a road trip's always fun. I don't know about the two of you, and Jeff, this is really important because dogs obviously in the summer, and the vet made it very clear to me last summer because we had that like record high summer. He's like, I don't want any dog outside in the height of the day more than 10 to like 15 minutes max. What other things would you suggest? Because some people like myself, Oliver goes out 5 times a day. He's in really good shape. He doesn't gain any weight, and I can feed him whatever I want because he runs a lot. So some people only take out the dog 2 or 3 times a day. That's their business. When I'm doing five,
Yeah.
well, I mean, what do we do here?
It's an easy fix if it's not too much of a pain in the neck. I take the dogs when I've been here a bunch of summers. We're going to Tractor Supply, we're going to Home Depot, we're going to Lowe's, any hardware store you're allowed inside, super nice and cool. And you can't come up with a better training and stimulating scenario for a dog. So that's what I would suggest is hop in your car, drive to the local hardware store, take your dog in and just shop around and have some fun. I have to deal with that a lot. I cannot work outside there when it's 100 degrees with these
It's
dogs.
like it's too much. And after 10 to 15 minutes, like,
Yeah.
especially with like a heavy coat, it's not even about how
Heat
much they weigh or
strokes.
how big they are.
And they get heat stroke. They can get it before 10 minutes is up, especially with this stuff that smush nose dogs like I have a bunch of here. So
Right.
yeah, I'm very careful about that. Take them out to pee, take them out to poop, and then we're in the car. And if we want to get some real, stimulating activities, it's to the hardware store. Anywhere you're allowed to go inside. I can bring my dog in Walgreens. They love him. He's kind of famous
I mean,
there.
you can take Frankie anywhere, so it's a different scenario for you.
Sure, but most dogs can do pretty well at a Tractor Supply. It's pretty
Right.
fun.
It's such a manly. Come on, baby, let's go to Home Depot or Lowe's. We're gonna
Yeah,
go
just
in, check out some supplies.
do me a favor. Take Oliver there one day and then tell me how many people stop to pet him and say hi to him. It'll blow your
Oh,
mind. The people love the
people.
dog.
The thing is, though, I'm really because I'm such a germaphobe. It's the Jewish blood inside me. So like this morning, they were opening up one of the cafes, and he came out of the back. And obviously, he was handling food and doing, and he's like, "Oh,
Right,
can I?" And I
right.
was like, "Ugh!" I almost said no, don't pet him because I don't know what this guy was touching. And then Dagmar, he's like, like his whole hand was like on Oliver's top coat, and I was like, I got to go home and wash him right away. But I clean him anyway. The second I come home, I have the
Sure.
organic paw wipes and I wipe him down. But
And here's a
what is your take
suggestion.
on letting anyone touch your dog and come over and saying hi?
I think people should ask permission, right? And there are
A lot of
plenty
people don't.
of
They don't do that.
yeah. I would say something to
Put
them
a
like that. You
t-shirt
shouldn't
on.
go.
I bite.
What's that?
Like this thing. I bite.
I mean, Oliver doesn't look like, yeah, he doesn't look like an aggressive dog.
I always say for dogs that I don't really want to be petted by people, whether it's a dog I don't trust or a person that I don't trust, I say he's in training. Please,
But yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
No, it works
he's
every
in
time.
training.
So
Well, I have a neighbor who has the service vest on and her dog is not. She just doesn't want anyone to touch him ever. And so she just throws that thing on so they know not even to come up. She's
I
just
tend
not
to give
about it.
permission to people who ask if the dog is a dog who has a history of enjoying that type of it.
Right. Right. And let's say a dog comes from, whether you get a dog from a shelter, you adopt a dog, you get it directly from the breeder at a young age, when a lot of people do when they're let's say 3 months old, and they immediately they come with anxiety, right?
Yep.
It wasn't created in the home. They come with it. At that young of an age, what do you usually attribute where that anxiety came from when they're only a couple months old?
I mean, look, you take a dog away from its litter and its litter mates and its mom, that's anxiety right there. That's I'm in a new
You mean
situation.
taking it away too early or just taking it away, period?
In general, I mean, look, too early is really bad, but I don't, 10 to 12 weeks, which is always what I suggest to people when they say, what's a good age to bring a puppy out of the litter? Even then, it's just such a shock to the system. So right off the bat, you're going to have a couple days where the dog's feeling some sort of anxiety. There's just no question about that. And then it's how it's handled from there. It can get way worse, or there are ways to nip it in the bud if you know how. But just keep in mind the most common problem is adorable puppies showing signs of anxiety. What do? We tell them it's going to be okay. And we pet them and we talk in this real soothing voice, which to them is a reward, right? There's No question that they're going to see that as something you might want them to repeat. So it's how you handle it at those stages that dictate whether the dog's going to stay anxious or get worse. But yes, a lot of puppies come home to a new house and they have anxiety right off the bat. And if you took 10 puppies out of the same litter, 3 of them might have anxiety and the other 7 might be just fine, or it could be different. It could be 7 with anxiety. It depends on the breeding and other factors. But my point to everybody is there's always a way to make it better. I said this to you on the phone earlier is sometimes people are like, my dog has anxiety and that's just what it is. And I just have to deal with that and I have to manage it. And I don't believe that. I believe you can constantly improve their lives, create confidence. And I don't ever see a dog that's like, that's just a dog that's going to be like that forever. Right. Training can solve those problems, but it's hard work and it's a lot of know-how that a lot of people don't have, if I'm being honest.
I don't think people realize how a dog is like bringing home a child from the hospital, a baby. I know people are like, oh, don't. And people are doing this all over, TikTok and Instagram. And they're like, don't tell me I didn't birth this child. And there's like women holding like babies, like in a hospital gown. Obviously, some of it's AI, but there's so much involved when you have a dog and multiples, or like Dagmar, a lot of cats, and you are responsible for them. You have to keep them safe. You have to keep them fed. You have to walk them. I don't think people realize the responsibility that it takes when you have a pet. It's a lot of work. Like you said, consistency is number one. I usually am. Sometimes I fall off a little bit, but consistency is so important. Not raising your voice. Sometimes I'm like, Oliver. And, he's like, but he knows. So he'll go hide under the bed. I try not to do it if I'm, in a mood or something's going on that day. Or, Dylan drives me a little crazy. Sorry, Dylan, I just used you as an example. Whatever it may be. But it's a huge undertaking because they are relying on you. There's very few things they can do on their own. They can eat on their own, they can drink water on their own, and they go to the bathroom on their own, but which you have to clean up. And otherwise, they really rely on you for everything else, right? For love, for care, to keep them safe and all these other things. So I think it's really important that people know that having a dog, which is there's no better feeling than having a dog. I mean, Frankie's what you would say is one of your children, right? Honestly.
I don't know if I would say that, but he's very, very, very important to me. I mean,
Right.
I don't
Not
know if
like
I'd say,
saying like Quinn, Frankie's equal to you as a human, but I'm saying, but he's a family member,
no,
right?
he's a family member, 100% a
That's
family
what I
member.
mean. Oliver is my son because I don't have any children. But
Yes. I mean, but if I compare my feelings for Quinn and my feelings for Frankie, they are on different levels.
right, of
And I
course,
would
of
have said
course.
before I had a kid that that wasn't going to be the case, but I would have been wrong.
Right, right.
But he's 100%. They're all family members, all the dogs here. And we love them. And it is our responsibility to keep them safe, but not just physically, right? Emotionally safe is a thing. And emotionally safe means that you're not going to let them do a bunch of things that drive you crazy, where you're always frustrated and annoyed. And because they read that energy and that's the last thing they ever want to see or feel or hear. So, yes, part of it is teaching your dog to do all the good things you want them to do and to diminish all those behaviors that you don't want them to do. That's part of keeping them emotionally safe.
Mm, that's a really good point. I think that animals are like humans in the sense that they like stability, right?
Structure, stability, consistency, clarity. I've got a lot of words that I like to use there, but yes, they love that. It makes them feel super safe, and structure is everything to them.
We would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Cafe Bastille originated in Miami, now has a location in downtown Fort Lauderdale for almost 2 years. Located steps from Las Solas and sitting on the canal, I can personally say I frequent there often. Their lattes are wonderful, hot or cold. The velvet pancakes just melt in your mouth. The pommes frites are on point, and the bottomless mimosas for brunch all day long are absolutely fabulous. For more information, please go to cafebastilledowntown.com.
And what about if you have a dog that is really close to you. He's a mama's boy. I'm not going to mention any names to where this guy is. And you're thinking of getting another dog. Obviously, the dog that's already living with you. Look at Dagmar's face because she's like, Oliver would never have it.
It
He
doesn't sound
wouldn't.
like he'd love it.
No, he wouldn't. But the question is obvious. No, but any dog at first, right, would have anxiety. Like it's like when Dylan came home from the hospital. I don't know how I remember this because I was only like 4 years old. And I was like, I remember going like, who's this guy? Bring him back. And my dad said that. I was like, what? Like, get that
Bring him
baby out
back.
of here, right? I would imagine, like at first, because I didn't understand what was going on. Even though I saw him growing my mom's belly, and I was like, why is mom fat right now? Oh no, she's not. She has a kid in there. But I would imagine that a dog would be someone like, what is this? Like for fun, like maybe it's cute for a few days,
Yes.
but then he's like, when is this guy getting
Yes.
out of here?
Do you mind if I tell you just a quick story that
No,
relates to this?
please.
Is
Yeah.
I sent you a picture of the cute little lab puppy recently.
Yes.
And he has an older lab that I trained a while ago, and this is his new one. And I actually went with him to get the puppy and bring it back to the house for the introduction. And the older dog, who'd never shown a sign of aggression in her life, was snapping at the puppy, like, "Get away from me! What are you doing in my house? I don't like this at all." So I showed him how to do some what we call positive association exercises, which is if Ruby, the older dog, lays eyes on the puppy, Bubbles, you are then going to immediately present some sort of high value reward. As soon as you see Ruby sees the puppy, good girl, here's that high value reward. He just did it for 10 days straight every time. And I went back there recently and they were like this. 2 weeks later, they're inseparable, best of friends.
Two
But,
peas in a pod.
they loved it. But if I hadn't been his trainer and he hadn't used a good trainer, what would have happened possibly is that he would have made separate times, right? Oh, look, this is Ruby's time. Oh, now
Right.
it's Bubbles' time. And that creates a terrible amount of jealousy.
Do
So
you
I
think
showed
that
him how to,
also if it's like two males or male on female or two females, do you think that that makes any difference in the beginning?
yeah, two
Especially two
females.
males?
No, especially two females in my
Ri-
experience.
What are you trying to
They
say
have the
about
worst.
women, Jeff?
No, they just have the worst fights. Like as far as dog fights go, it's that mama energy, right? It's something they just go a little further. A couple males, and this is kind of true in humans as far as I've experienced. Is two guys will get in a fist fight and be best friends 20 minutes later, and
That's true.
yeah, it doesn't work that way a
Women be
lot with
holding grudges.
a
Yeah.
little bit. And so
Yeah.
I've seen dogs where they just get in a little scuffle. They're like, all right, you're clearly the bit stronger than me, and then they're best pals and I've seen two females fight close to the death. Like it can be terrifying. And that's
Cats
just a
are like that,
generalization,
Daggy.
obviously, right?
I've seen we had some cats in Jamaica. I promise you would think that it was out of a movie. The way I would hear them at 5 in the tree, I'd be
Cats
like,
fighting
wake me
scares
up
me.
out of a deep sleep. And I'm like, someone, I mean, cats can really, the female cats on
So
cat, they are not having it. Right, Dagmar?
There's no difference between female or male or neutered or spayed. Like I have that with neutered and spayed ones.
yeah.
I have outside stray cats, not neutered, not spayed. I have indoor cats who think that's the way to go.
But do they go at it? Do they go at it with each other?
That's depending on their nervous system, my nervous system, the environment they're in. I started reading a book, Cat versus Cat, speaks about that all the cats are social, just they live in this different social ecosystem as what we humans would see as social, because they like to hunt alone because their prey is so little, and they like to stay in a group, but they don't need to touch each other. They just want to
Like in a
stay in
pack. Yeah.
a pack. And they talked about, I have two boys, similar age, similar weight. They're like two teenage boys trying to dominate each other. And they're normally harmless. But if one is really pissed about another one who dominated him, and he has this energy and tries to get rid of this energy, oh, then it can be bad.
Yeah. Cats fights are terrifying. I've heard them before. Dog fights are no fun either. So what you're
No, they're
doing when
not.
you're bringing a new dog home is you're trying to show them, look, this is going to be really fun for you. You're trying to show them all the same stuff we talked about with calm energy, and I'm not anxious about this. And even if you are anxious about it, right, it's how you communicate. I have to get dogs together all the time that have the possibility of not liking each other. And there are times where it's concerning. But the last thing I want to do is show that in the way I'm handling the situation. So it
So
goes back to,
I did the mistake one time because I didn't know better. We had a dog. A friend brought a dog. They were outside with me. Everybody else was inside, and they started fighting over a bone. And then they really got bad, and I went between them.
What, you mean
And
a dog and a cat?
no,
no, two dogs fighting.
Oh,
Did you get bit or not?
yeah, I got bitten
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. That's
did
never
you?
fun.
I didn't know
I was
that.
the only one who had injuries.
Yeah.
So, and then they told me you shouldn't go between dogs in a dog fight.
Yeah. What you want to do, I mean, you probably didn't have one handy, but Marine air horns work very well.
I did not have an air horn
Nope. I bet you
handy.
didn't have it
No,
handy.
Jeff.
No, but
And then,
shrieking noises freaks dogs out. They would have ran so fast.
I
Yeah.
yeah.
screamed. I
But if
screamed.
you really need to break it up physically, you grab their back paws, lift them up in the air, and walk
Back
off to the
off.
side. That's, you know, that's a possibility. Just so you don't get in the middle and get bit. I've had to break up a lot of dog fights in the past.
So what happens, Jeff, when you're training all these different dogs and personalities, and let's say one of them starts to, because I'm sure you would have to break it up then at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's happened for sure. But I have to choose which dogs I believe will get. I call them clicks. I know which dogs will mesh with each other well, and I put them together. But yes, every once in a while, there's like a little tiff. And what I do is I'm saying I'm the leader here. You're not allowed to work it out amongst yourselves. I don't allow violence here. So and I grab them and I correct them, and then I bring them right back together, which most people wouldn't. They'd separate them, right? But then they don't learn anything. So I let them back together after what we call the correction. And then, oh, that's so much better. I'm so proud of you. And basically, they're like, if those are my two options, I'll take the one where I don't get in trouble. But yes, you have to be, if you are the human in that circumstance, you have to say, I'm in charge. And there's no fighting here. We don't
Right.
tolerate it
It's
because
like
it's
the
very normal for
teacher
dogs.
at the schoolyard with the kids that are going at it, and you have to roll
Right.
in and be like, okay, this is what's going on here. They're like,
That's right.
same thing.
Right. And it's normal for both. Normal for kids to get in a little fight, normal for dogs to get in a little fight. But you don't want to allow that because who knows how far it could escalate. So yeah, here I don't really let them work it out. If they were living here together, I might. But my client's dog, I'm not letting anyone where I'm just saying you're not allowed to fight. End of story. And you can do that. You can teach a dog in this home or this pack or this family, we don't ever tolerate this behavior. And fighting is one of them. Aggression of any kind.
Dogs are, this is, it's like humans. Dogs are like having children. It's the same kind of thing, right?
It is. It's a lot of
Consistency, having
responsibility.
rules, structure.
That's right.
I'm
But I
not
can
one for
raise my
structure,
dog.
and I'm a grown adult
Yeah.
for
I can
myself,
raise
not
my
for
dog
Oliver.
from a puppy to adulthood in about a year and a half, right?
I was going to
Everything
ask you
done, done.
what age is it actually in it? No, don't say adult. What age is it teenage dogs? So you don't go from a puppy to an adult, right? So what, like, is a teenage year of a dog 3 or 4, or how does it?
Yeah, I mean, but they say the 7 year thing. So you'd be talking about, I don't know if it's very exact, but they say, 7 years for each year for a human. So a 3-year-old dog, they would say, is about 21 years old. I have a two
How
year old
dare they?
Amstaff here, and he definitely acts like a 14-year-old boy. I'll tell you that. Exactly what you would think a 14-year-old boy would be acting like. That's what he's doing.
Really? He's already trying to read. He's already trying to read Playboy.
He's trying to do a lot of things. I don't know about the Playboy.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we always love having you on, and it's so informative. And we love animals and dogs and cats and
Yeah.
birds and all types of animals. And what would be your, as because Dagmar loves doing this, what would be your one takeaway that you would want to give listeners and viewers specifically about anxiety for dogs? What would be your takeaway wrap up?
Yeah. Most importantly, I would want people to understand that you don't want to reward anxious behaviors. You don't make them feel better by telling them it's going to be okay. You don't make them feel better by stroking them nicely. That's instinctual, but it's not correct, right? So the number one takeaway I would like people to to do is, if your dog's acting anxious, try to do something to get their mind off of it. A come command, go grab their leash and get them to get interested in a walk. And then as soon as they're acting more confident, then I'm so proud of you. You're the best. But don't love on them too much while they're anxious. It doesn't do them any good. That'd be my best advice.
I mean, that's perfect. What else would you have to say? I mean, that sums it up in a nutshell. Also, people, if you are interested in Jeff's services in the new year, Master Dog Trainer Extraordinaire, PalmBeachDogAcademy.com. Get all your information there. And you can find Daggy and I on ProblemSolver.com. No, Eon Solve. And we're on Instagram and TikTok. And so is Jeff. Guys, we're all everywhere you are on social media. Okay. And Daggy, would you like to wrap up and say anything in your cute pink top today?
Love your doggy and do your best to create a good life quality and environment for both of you.
It's great.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me. I
We love
appreciate it.
having you. Up. Oliver wants to thank everybody too.
That was perfect.
Yep.
He's
We
so
love
cute.
you. We see you. We hear you, everybody. Happy New Year.
Oliver.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Just a quick note before we end. This conversation is for inspiration and empowerment only. It's not medical, mental health, or legal advice. We are not doctors, therapists, or lawyers. Just women sharing real stories and personal truth. Always seek professional guidance for your unique situation.